And when you look at both of these two teams as they get set to take the field, Pasadena City College this last week also didn't end up getting a win, but they were close with a National Division team in Cerritos. Cerritos, they end up dropping that one 22-10, but the big thing for Pasadena City College was the interceptions, the turnovers. They turned the ball over 6 times in that matchup, so they've got to be able to clean that up here tonight against LA Valley. As we get set for kickoff, it's going to be LA Valley who will receive to start off this game. LA Valley College is going to start things off with Cameron Lewis back deep. He will end up being joined by Dante Coxum as Contreras gets set to kick it away. So we are underway here at Pasadena City College as we get set for the home opener for the Lancers. They'll be going from right to left, and LA Valley College from left to right. The kick is up, the kick is away, and it's end over end, and will be into the arms of Lewis. He's going to take it up the left-hand side, tries to go in between the hash marks, and ends up dropping the ball. It's loose. Pasadena City College thinks they have it. What's the call? The officials are going up to it. They're going to say that LA Valley has maintained possession, but just for a moment, it is a worrisome afternoon for LA Valley College. And that's going to bring up Pasadena City College's defense for the first time today, as they're going to bring up Carlos Ramirez, joined by Gabriel Hernandez up on the line, in addition to Mark Anderson III. Anderson III staying up on the left-hand side, as Chevalier ends up taking a look, trying to scramble around, getting away from one. He ends up getting past Loretto, tosses it downfield. Is it complete? It is indeed, as Don Harrell will end up making the catch about a yard upfield. And he is asking for a flag. A flag is indeed thrown.
Looks like the corner Sala or O'Day just got there a little too early. And a flag on the near sideline with
Node had an excellent week last week as we get the announcement. So it ends up being a pass interference in addition to a roughing the passer call for Pasadena City College. O'Day ends up getting the first one, which was declined, and Edward Vargas gets called for the personal foul that ends up marching them down the field 15 yards. So we've got a first down and 10 from the 40-yard line. And Chevalier goes back into the gun. He'll drop it back, take a look, and he gets taken down. Right there for the sack will end up being Michelangelo Loretto, and he's got his first sack of the season. He had 2 tackles for loss last week, and he adds one here.
And if the Lancers are watching film on the Mounties, they know that they can attack this offensive line with speed. LA Valley College offensive line, even though it's big, relatively slow when getting off the ball. So if they can be faster than off the get off, the Lancers can have a lot of success when they rush the passes.
So Chevalier goes back, and he's going to take the snap once more. In the gun, he looks to hand it off, and it will go into the awaiting arms of Isaiah Johnson. And Johnson will take it up to the 38-yard line, maybe 30, we'll say 39 and a half actually is where they're going to spot it. Instead, that was actually Julian Moore who gets the start in the backfield. Out wide to the right will end up being Dupree Fuller Jr. Wide to the left is Jelani Ellison. He's joined to his right by Deandre Smith in the slot. 3-man rush for Pasadena City. Here's Chevalier. He gets rocked right at the 30-yard line, and this time it's going to be Jordan Monroe who gets into the backfield, and that's the second sack of the game for Pasadena City. And even more important, that was on 3rd down, so it will be a punt coming up for LA Valley. Coming onto the field for the punt will be William Kalanji. Snap is low. He's got to get it away. Nearly tipped, and it will go up to the 50-yard line, bounce back towards the 49, and stay right at the 50 as taking a look at it and calling everyone off is Jeremiah Hartfield, and he'll walk to the sideline as Pasadena City College will get their first offensive possession at the 50. A short field for the Lancers, and they look to get their first points on the board here in game number 2 this year. Again, Ryan Osborn joined by Noah Alvarez over to my left-hand side as we are just underway. 12:48 left to go here in the first quarter of play here on SportsNetUSA.net. Jogging out there is Cade Wentz. He's going to be joined in the backfield by Miles Anderson. They go with a single back set and 4 wide. Snap is taken. Toss on the near side, too far out in front of Ivan Austri, and it will be incomplete for 2nd down and 10. Up in front on the defensive line for LA Valley, one big guy that you can watch for all night is DeAnthony Jackson. Jackson finished with 6 tackles against Cerritos, and he's joined over to his left by Julio Cortez. Cortez will be the nose tackle as LA Valley bluffs 5. They're going to bring forward, goes over to Anderson. Anderson pops off of 1, goes off to the left side, and he will end up gaining 7 on a 2nd down and 10 to go. So that brings up 3rd and short with 3 yards to go for Pasadena City. The Lancers in their all red uniforms with gold outlining and numerals, in addition to some black piping as well. LA Valley bringing the house up into the pocket will end up being Wentz, and he is able to rush it forward for 5 yards, and he makes it a 1st down. So LA Valley gets their first chain move of the afternoon, and the Lancers are able to once again reset with a 1st and 10.
One player I want to highlight from the LA Valley College defense, Richard Graham, outside backer wearing number 47 for the Monarchs. He was all over the place last week for the Monarchs defense against Mount Sac, and even though in the second half the game was way out of contention, he was still fighting on defense very hard, playing to the whistle. Look for 47 to make some big plays today.
There was Wentz, he decided to take it himself, ends up losing a half a yard, so now it's 2nd down and about 11. So Wentz goes back. He was 28 for 54 last Saturday, 51% completion rate. Rolls off to his right. Anderson picks up the blitz. He's going to toss over to his right where Hartfield is, and he makes the catch just after the sticks. A gain of 11 and a 1st down for PCC. For Jeremiah Hartfield, nice route that he runs there, ends up going across the field from the left-hand side in the slot, and he is able to get that 1st down for Pasadena City College. Going out wide to the left will be Justin Campbell. He is their deep threat. He had their longest reception of the afternoon against Cerritos at 24 yards. In the slot on the right is Jabari Kindle. Kindle goes in motion. He's going to get the pitch, tries to go end around. He ends up nearly getting wrapped up, but gets away from 1. Goes into the secondary and runs out of bounds after a loss of 2. So avoiding disaster there is Kindle, and Kindle is able to get back at least 2 yards from the initial point of contact that he had. Almost wrapping him up initially was Richard Graham. Fumble initially. Here's Wentz. Wentz trying to roll out of the pocket. Stiffs arms 1 and then gets rocked. And he ends up getting taken down by Isaiah Johnson, who continues to move upfield. And that is going to be a loss of about 8 yards. And for Pasadena City College, it now brings up a 3rd and forever.
And those are tough because as a coach, you want your quarterback and any offensive player to be able to improvise, make a play, even if it's a blown play like that when the ball hits the ground. But that one, you just have to tell your player and
tell your team in an event like that, just fall on the ball, because he tried to make something happen, lost 10 more yards rather than just falling on the ball after the bad snap.
So Wentz with a 3rd and long. They're looking at 3rd and 26 from the 34-yard line. Make it the 44, excuse me. Dropping back is Wentz. 2-step drop. He's going to go deep near side. Going up and nearly bringing it in will end up being Austrie. It looked like he initially had the reception in his hands over top of Sean Wilson, but Wilson is there with the active hands to make sure that that isn't a catch.
Yeah, the defensive backs is something I'm going to watch really tightly for LA Valley College today, because last week they got torched by Mount Sac offensively. And while Mount Sac has a different set of receivers, Ryan, I'm sure when you play any sport, you have a bad performance one week, the next week, or the next time you get out there on the ice or wherever you're playing, you're ready to show something and prove people that you're not what you were last week. And I think that's what the secondary for the Monarchs are going to do today. Come out and ball, and that was a nice play already from Sean Wilson.
So Pasadena City College, they initially are able to move the ball, get a couple first downs, but now they have to go back on defense. Coach Robert Tucker, in his first year as the head coach of Pasadena City College, he's got a little familiarity when it comes to LA Valley College. Why, you ask? Because he was the head coach of LA Valley for a couple of seasons, and it seemed like he brought that gold touch along with him. He became Midas for that LA Valley football team, because as soon as he got there, he led them to a bowl game and an American Conference Championship, American Division Championship, I should say. So Chevalier goes back. He's going to go into the gun. Off to his right, he has Julian Moore. Moore, watching, takes the carry off the right-hand side. He ends up getting wrapped up by a host of Lancers there after a total gain of 2 yards. LA Valley trying to work quickly. Wide to the right, they have Don Harrell. It's a pitch over towards the left. It's going to go into the awaiting arms of Moore. He ends up getting out of bounds after gaining just about 3 yards. So now you've got a 3rd down and 5 to go. Ball is sitting at just about the 26-yard line. So Chevalier goes back, barks out, trips to the right. They end up going with Harrell on the right, joined by Fuller Jr. in addition to Deandre Smith. Going in motion will be Julian Moore. He ends up going off to his right. It's a pitch off to the right. He's got one guy to beat. He ends up leaping over one and gets taken down at the 31-yard line. Ends up being wrapped up there by Jesse Canizales. And Canizales had a really nice afternoon against Cerritos. Against Cerritos, he had 8 tackles and a tackle for loss as well. But more importantly for LA Valley, they end up gaining the sticks. Pasadena City College showing that they're going to bring 5. Chevalier reads it. They do end up bringing 5. On the left-hand side, it's going to go to Ellison. Ellison gets past 1. He ends up getting up into the secondary and gets himself a gain of 7. So that will bring the ball up to the 38-yard line.
And while it's only 1 first down, Ryan, I do want to point it out, because last week against Mount Sac really had trouble moving the ball, moving those chains. They only had 5 first downs via their offense, 11 via penalties. So that's something that's very encouraging, especially if you want to get into your offensive flow at this level.
In the secondary for Pasadena City, Jalen Thornton leading things off and looking like he's going to drop back to cover Savage. Pitch off to the right, it goes over to Moore. Moore gets past 1, gets past 2, now works his way up to the 45-yard line. That's an overall gain of 6 yards, and it brings a first down for LA Valley.
And Julian Moore is one of 6 players from the country of Canada on this LA Valley roster. And fun fact that Coach Towns was able to tell me before the season started, he's also trying to be a professional singer. He has actually an agent, and he's working on getting a deal done soon, so that's something cool that he does on the side.
So Moore goes back into the backfield once again. They end up going with a screen pass off to the left. Deandre Smith gets wrapped up by 2, and in for the tackle once again is Lucio Rodriguez. Rodriguez already with 2 tackles and brings him down after a gain of 2.5. Ball is going to go up to the 47-yard line. of LA Valley. They're trying to get across the 50 for the first time today. They got it up to the 50 in their first offensive possession, but weren't able to advance it past there. Nose tackle Gabriel Hernandez goes from the right side of the line and moves off to the left. Chevalier pushes Deandre Smith a little bit further off to his right. He's going to go read option over to the left. Moore ends up dropping the ball. He's got to circle around. Getting chased down by 2. Gets wrapped up and taken down at the 21-yard line. It's Carlos Ramirez for the second time today.
And almost identically to the play that we saw for the Lancers offense, if you just fall on the ball, take that loss of initially 6 or 7 yards, it's not as bad. But now the player tries to create too much, and it's a lot faster at this level. I'm surprised Moore, a sophomore running back who played in 2019, he made a very young mistake right there.
Negative 13 yards on that one. It's 3rd down and 26 to go. Just like PCC had in their offensive possession last. Chevalier brings it back. He's going to drop back into the gun, goes deep. He's got a guy wide open, and it's right there for Blake on that far side. So Batarse gets the catch, and he ends up bringing most of that 26 back. In fact, he's going to end up bringing 23 yards along with him, and it's now a 4th down and 3. LA Valley is going to go for it. They're now in Pasadena City College territory, and it looks like we may have a timeout taken. And it's by Pasadena City College. So not only do they get the big gain on that reception, but they also are able to push Pasadena City College into calling a timeout.
And one thing that really impressed me from that week 1 game from Chevalier is his ability to just fit it in and really be fearless when throwing the ball. Sometimes that could be both a negative and positive for him, but you saw it there on display. Defense is in cover 2. He sees that there's an opening there on the far sideline, and he just rockets it in there. Sometimes he does throw it a little too hard, and you might see that later on in this game, but Chevalier is not afraid to throw it as hard as he can to his receivers. So that's something I feel like that's going to go bode well if they're going to continue to run cover 2 on the Lancers defense.
And LA Valley has changed their decision. They're now going to punt it instead of going for it on 4th and 3 inside of Pasadena City College territory. However, Pasadena City College isn't buying it. They're bringing out most of their normal defense. Going back to receive just in case is Nathaniel Palacios. And it's going to be a fake. This is going to be an end around, moved over to Fuller Jr. Fuller Jr. has some space. He gets into the secondary and brings himself down at the 31-yard line. So a fake punt. Pasadena City College figured that they would go for it, but LA Valley is able to execute it well.
And I like the roll of the dice there. Obviously, you don't want to let the Lancers get up early on you. I feel like they were moving the ball pretty successfully on that drive, minus that big minus play. So good for the coach, Towns, and the Monarchs to be able to get that one on 4th down.
Last week for LA Valley, Chevalier was 4 of 12 for a total of 23 yards. He gained 23 on one throw earlier on this drive. So as of right now, unofficially, he's currently sitting at 4 for 6. Which is much better than what he had in game number 1 against Mount Sac, and a timeout is taken by LAVC. 3:45 left to go in the first quarter of play. No score between both of these two sides. Pasadena City College, LA Valley, scoreless. You are watching Pasadena City College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ryan Osborn, joined by Noah Alvarez over to my left, bringing you the action from Pasadena and Robinson Stadium. No fans in attendance, but lively so far from both of these two teams who are gaining a lot more yards than each of them saw in the first game.
Yeah, and I think these are 2 evenly matched teams compared to their first week opponents. Obviously, I was able to mention in the broadcast, Mount Sac, National Conference, they play the likes of Fullerton, Saddleback College, teams that are much more competitive, have different kind of athletes. I feel like LA Valley and Pasadena City College, they're more evenly matched, and this should be an interesting game tonight.
So LA Valley goes back for the pass. They end up trying to get it over to Dallas Martin, and Martin couldn't hang on to it. So that's going to end up bringing it to a 2nd down and 10 to go. .341 left to go in quarter number 1 here on SportsNetUSA.net. Noah Alvarez joined by Ryan Osborn here on a Saturday afternoon in the city of Pasadena. Opportunity over to the left. It's going to be Moore trying to get forward, actually make that Deandre Smith. And Deandre Smith gets taken down at the 26-yard line. Make it the 29. So now you've got a chance here for LA Valley College with a 3rd and long, 3rd and 7 to be exact. And coming up will be a 3rd down. So big chance here for LA Valley. Going back to Chevalier. They move over towards the left. It's going to be a rush forward. He ends up losing one, so that technically goes as a sack for Pasadena City. And getting the sack there this time will be Jalen McGee. McGee had a decent afternoon against Cerritos, and now he repeats the process. So McGee with the opportunity to get a takedown there, and he is able to halt the LA Valley offense. 2:20 left to go here in quarter number 1. Going back to receive is Hartfield. He's at his own 10 at 4th and 8. Up into the air, high, back spun. Ball that goes over to the 20 takes a very healthy Pasadena City College hop, and it will end up at the 21-yard line where Pasadena City College will take over. So with 2:08 left to go here in the first quarter of play, Pasadena City, LA Valley, both knotted up at 0. You are watching Pasadena City College football here. 7-0 Pasadena City College with the lead. Chevalier goes back. He ends up popping it over to his right, looking for Fuller, and that goes just past his outstretched arm. And it will be an incomplete pass for 2nd down and 10 to go. They're at the 40-yard line, going from right to left. Pasadena City College, the Lancers currently with the lead. As Julian Moore will go back into the backfield. He's joined wide out to the left by Don Harrell, in addition to Deandre Smith. In the slot on the right-hand side is Fuller. Taking the snap is Chevalier, smacked back and all the way to the 21-yard line. It will be an incomplete pass. Getting his hands on that will end up being Roland Rodriguez. And Rodriguez with an excellent pressure there, in addition to getting that pass breakup.
Something needs to change for this Monarch passing scheme, because we've already seen time and time again, Chevalier, even once he wants to roll out, he has no room to really get outside. He has no passing lanes. The Lancers pass rush is doing everything that they can to get into the backfield, and to a lot of success.
7-0 Pasadena City College with the lead. Chevalier goes back into the gun as he has been all game long. Looks over to his right, tries to go over to Moore once again, and the active hands for the Lancers once more are able to break it up. And it will be Michelangelo Loretto, who already has a sack in this game and a tackle. You can add a pass breakup to it. Going back to receive will be Hartfield. He had all of the returns last week against Cerritos. Hartfield, 6 returns for 134 yards and a long of 27. Kicked up into the air and blocked. It's going to be scooped up, picked up by Pasadena City College, and it looks like getting up to it will end up being Salah Ode. Cayden Spence with the punt block, and Pasadena City goes from looking like they were going to be back inside their own territory to bringing it up to the 22-yard line. However, there is a flag on the opposite side of the field. We'll see what the announcement is coming up.
by Julian Moore. Tackle by number 21, Jalen Thornton.
So for the moment being, LA Valley College with a first down and 10 to go from just about the 41-yard line, their own 41-yard line. 14-0, Pasadena City College with the lead. Ryan Osborn, Noah Alvarez live in the second quarter here in the city of Pasadena, as both of these two teams are trying to get their first wins of the season. Pasadena City College offensive line down and to our left, ending up being instructed there. They've had a really good push here this afternoon, had a lot of abilities to make this run game go. Here's Julian Moore trying to pop it over to the left-hand side, cuts in and out, ends up getting himself up to the 38-yard line and slammed down. LA Valley is asking for a flag, and Moore is slow to get up. The tackle is going to be made by Jordan Monroe. So 2nd and 8, live from Pasadena, 14-0 is our score. Chevalier goes back into the gun. He's got split backs, one over to his right. That's Elijah Hudson. Moving over to his left is going to be Quanta Pugh. He ends up getting decked from behind by Cayden Spence. Spence has a punt block in addition to a sack here. And Cayden Spence with a big-time afternoon and evening, as he has made a huge difference for the Lancers in this one. Noah, when you look at Cayden Spence last week, he had a really nice night against the Cerritos Falcons as well. Ended up getting 2 interceptions for 58 yards. This time he has a punt block in addition to a sack.
I believe he almost took that one back at Cerritos last week for a touchdown, too, one of the interceptions.
Whistles blow, and it looks like we may have a timeout taken. Nope, a delay of game going against LA Valley College. So they'll be marched back 5 yards. They lost a total of 8 on that last play. So now they're going to go all the way back to the 25-yard line. They have to gain the 46. So 3rd down and 21 to go. Chevalier in the backfield. Again, he is joined by Hudson, in addition to Pugh. Pugh on his right, Hudson on his left. On the near side, it's Don Harrell. Looking Harrell's way, he goes over to Hudson, and it's incomplete and out of bounds. 3rd down turns into 4th, and it's 4th and 21 to go. The punting unit is going to come out for LA Valley.
I'm not a big fan of how their offensive line is sliding. Left tackle Taleem Thompson is lining up head up with the defensive tackle of the Lancers, but they all slide to the right as soon as the ball is hiked, leaving Chevalier exposed. And we saw it right there, too, on the delay of game penalty. I thought Chevalier was lucky that he didn't get that ball off because he was going to take a big hit. Same play, same result. He was forced to rush the ball out earlier than he wanted to.
Kalanji kicks it away, and it's going to go all the way up to the 39-yard line, where it will be spotted out of bounds. They'll make it the 40, so that's going to be a grand total of just about 22 yards. Make it 15. See, it's nice when you're able to count how many yards actually happen. You know, you start with your 2s, then you end up getting to that odd number, and you realize, wait, that's only 15, not 22. See, hey, I was never good in math.
Math is hard.
It is very hard.
We're not mathematicians.
No, not at all. But you know what? It's good to learn a little bit of everything. And if I can learn math by looking at the yardsticks, I will do that.
The only math I like.
In the backfield will be Wentz. He ends up handing it off, and immediately getting past the first level and into the second is Jabari Kindle. Kindle gets himself a gain of 6 and moves the ball up to the 35-yard line.
5-yard carry. Tackle on the play by number 58, Anthony Jackson. 2nd and 5 from the 35.
.903 left to go in quarter number 2. 14-0 Pasadena City College with the lead. Going back, tossing deep is Wentz. He's got a man open at the goal line. Touchdown, Lancers! Jeremiah Hartfield is there once again, and he's been the deep strike threat for Pasadena City College, and he is able to get a touchdown once more, and Pasadena City takes a 20-0 advantage.
Looked like miscommunication on the back end for the Monarchs. Safety was in man coverage, but he didn't realize it till late. One thing I'm noticing, too, the Monarchs are sending a lot more backers from the inside to get more pressure because their defensive front alone aren't able to get enough pressure or fill their run lanes when the Lancers choose to pass or run the ball.
You can hear the Pasadena City College coaches saying, hey, the defensive line ended up making the offensive line and the blockers for Pasadena City College jump, but after convening, we'll get the call here. So there it is, a false start against Pasadena City College. Christian Contreras last week ended up with 2 field goals that he made. He went 2 for 4, 50%, and also converted on 2 extra points. Contreras up into the air. It's a liner, but it gets on through. 21-0. Pasadena City College with the lead with 8:52 left to go here in the second quarter. You are watching Pasadena City College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. So, Noah, we were looking at both of these two teams and saying we knew that one of them was going to have a big bounce-back afternoon after how things went in week number 1. Pasadena City College, to this point, has really just kind of allowed the big play to fuel them forward.
And I think they're able to capitalize on the missed opportunities from LA Valley's side. We saw it in the first quarter. Both teams went scoreless. They were kind of feeling each other out. And really, I think what shifted the momentum was that blocked punt after the Lancers just scored the touchdown. Now things just seem to spiral out of control for the Monarchs, and it seems like they're pressing a little bit too much on offense and defense to do a little bit too much all at once. Just chip away at it. Don't play hero ball. You don't need to get it all back at once.
So 8:52 left to go here as this ball gets kicked away and goes all the way to the 35. It's going to be picked up by the up back in Perez. Perez will bring it up to the 37-yard line, and he'll drop it all the way down. Actually, that's Richard Graham had that turned around, so he gets up to the 39.
Officials timeout. Kickoff is overall. Return by number 47 for LA Valley. Richard Graham. Tackles on the play by number 13, Salah One. Number 31, Frank Coleman Jr.
And we got another Lancer down as everyone takes a knee here. 8:44 left to go here in the second quarter of play. It's 21-0. Pasadena City College with the lead. Ryan Osborn, Noah Alvarez over to my left-hand side. He's my color commentator for the afternoon. Noah, when you look at both these two sides, we already mentioned Pasadena City College has really been able to fuel themselves forward with the big play. And when you look at the way that Wentz has played so far this afternoon, he's made really smart decisions.
Yeah, and I think they've mixed it up well enough, too, where they're attacking the ball on the ground. They're getting gashes and forcing the Monarchs to send a lot of pressure. So he's seeing a lot of man coverage on the back end from the Monarchs defensive secondary. So really, Wentz has done a nice job at picking who's open, seeing what spots have a favorable matchup, and he's capitalizing on those throws.
Number 40, Giovanni Giron.
So 21-0 as Giovanni Giron is able to end up walking off the field as LA Valley's offense goes back on. In the slot to the left is Dallas Martin. He's also joined there by Dupree Fuller Jr. Deandre Smith out wide to the left. In the backfield is Moore. They're going to pitch it over to him. He's got a guy in front of him, makes one miss, it makes two miss, gets past the awaiting arms of Canales, and he is able to get a first down, ends up gaining 12 all the way down to the 49-yard line. And for LA Valley, that is a truly needed first down that goes the way of the Monarchs.
22, Julian Moore.
21-0 is our score. Pasadena City College with 8:25 left to go here in the second quarter of play.
12 yards on the play. First down for LA Valley. The Lancers 49.
Chevalier goes back. He brings it up to Moore. Moore's had a nice afternoon. He ends up getting up to the 48-yard line, make it the 47. They'll give him 2.
Julian Moore, one of the few players on this Monarch roster that stayed on the roster from 2019. He played significant minutes, had 79 carries, 287 yards, and 2 touchdowns in that 2019 season. A season in which the Monarchs finished 3-6 on the year.
So into the gun will go Chevalier. Brings it up at the 50, gets taken down immediately. A flag goes flying. Will it end up being a free play is the question. Flag was thrown on the far side of the field. That's usually around the area that you'll get in offsides, considering how quickly the defense was in the backfield. And it's encroachment. And that penalty goes against Roland Hughes as he is able to give LA Valley an additional 5 yards. Four wide, one of them being Blake Bartase. This goes up to Moore. Bartase ends up being the lead blocker on that, and he is able to get a first down. So again, LA Valley College with another first down, and they are able to march their way downfield. As of right now, they've gone about 57 yards.
And it goes back to what we were talking about. Just keep chipping away, getting first down after first down. It doesn't have to be any big, flashy plays, home run hitting type plays. Just keep getting first downs, get into scoring position, and capitalize on the opportunity.
21-0 is our score. Brought back. Up it goes into the awaiting arms of Fuller. Fuller gets past one, gets past another. He's going to move his way up the sideline. He's got the left-hand side to the 10 and brings himself out of bounds. Finally spun out there by Jalen Thornton. And that is a big-time pickup for LA Valley.
And it looked like Fuller was actually going to take a big shot when he was coming over the middle of the field. Nice job to evade all those tacklers and get some positive yards out of that.
So LA Valley is now inside the Pasadena City College 12. This is the first time that they've gotten into the red zone this afternoon. Afternoon turns into evening as the lights come on here at Robinson Stadium, named after Mac and Jackie. Over towards the left, it goes to Moore. Moore gets past one, gets past two, into the awaiting arms of Jordan Monroe, and Monroe is finally able to bring him down.
And you see there on that play, Ryan, we're going back to that conversation earlier. Chevalier just likes to chuck it in there sometimes. I mean, if you want to compare it to another sport, second base to first base, not a whole lot of distance, but he threw that as fast as he could right into Moore's arm. And fortunately for Moore, he was able to get that ball in time and make a move out of it, get some positive yards.
21-0 is our score. LA Valley is threatening. They're just outside the 10-yard line at the 12. Little handoff that goes over to Ellison. Ellison gets into trouble and finally gets taken down at the 19-yard line, so he ends up getting marched back about 7. And that will be a third down, and they're looking at 16 yards. So it went from a 1st and 10 at the 12 to now 3rd and long. Chevalier, 5 yards back. Moore is off to his left. He's got Deandre Smith wide off to his right. False start on the far side of the field. Jelani Ellison is going to be the guilty party there.
Try the snap. False start. The offense, number 2. 5-yard penalty. 2nd down.
Ellison just ends up kind of getting that anticipation going, decides that he's going to get his juke in early. And he goes -5 yards along with this offense. It goes up to the 24-yard line. 3rd down and 22. Pasadena City College sideline starts to get in it. More vocal as well. Chevalier looking at 3 down linemen and 2 up linebackers. There's a flag. It's a free play. Chevalier fires up the middle, and it's incomplete. Doesn't matter, as it looks like it's going to end up being a penalty coming up against the defensive line of Pasadena City College, as it is in fact encroachment. Make it offsides, as Carlos Ramirez took 1 step too early. And so that brings back the 5 yards that they had lost previously.
And it goes back to playing disciplined football on defense. You got to watch the ball as a defensive lineman, head inside, no matter where you are on the ball. Costly penalty there for the Lancers.
Sideline, getting vocal once again. Chevalier goes back, looks over at his 3 wide, off to the left, ends up delivering a strike into the hands of Fuller. Does he have enough for the first down, though, is the question. They will mark him out at the 3-yard line. It looks like it's just a bit short, and it's a 4th and less than 1 to go. But they are at the 3. LA Valley has decided that they are going to go for it. Chevalier in the backfield. He's going to be joined by Deandre Smith, in addition to Fuller and Moore. Wide to the right is Don Harrell. On the left-hand side is Dallas Martin. And that's going to be, it looks like, a timeout taken by Pasadena City College, just to try and get LA Valley to think about what their decision is coming up. So with 3:29 left to go in the first half, 21-0 is our score. You are watching Pasadena City College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. Noah Alvarez over to my left-hand side. And Noah, does this change anything for you? If you're LA Valley College coming out 4th and less than 1 to go, you are currently sitting at the 3-yard line.
I think you have to stay aggressive if you want to keep your team in this ball game. Like you said, 4th and less than 1. Maybe it changes the play call, but I like the formation that they came out in with 3 running backs in the backfield. I think that really confused Pasadena City College. I'm surprised. I'm going to be interested to see how they respond to it and what defensive personnel they put in. If they see something they don't like, I wouldn't be surprised, though, if the Monarchs called a timeout, too, and thought about taking that field goal.
So the offense, when you talk about that, Noah, looks like they're going to stay out on the field. So LA Valley is going to go for it. I mean, when you look at this, if they don't end up getting it, they're still pinning Pasadena City College deep in their own territory. It's something that you've mentioned before as well. There's really no lack of benefit here if you're LA Valley in going for it. Pasadena City College, a big play here, trying to get to LA Valley on a 4th down and 1 to go at the 3-yard line. Big point in this first half with 3:29 left. Chevalier goes back, 3-back set. They get the snap, and it looks like it could be a false start. And actually, it will be a timeout just beforehand. So back-to-back timeouts from both of these two teams, and that saves them too, because the right side of the offensive line had moved just a shade early. So with 3:26 left here in this one, in the first half, it's still 21-0 in favor of Pasadena City College. Just to recap the scoring to this point for Pasadena City. This is a Pasadena City College squad that ended up having a Jeremiah Hartfield 3-yard touchdown run. Followed it up with an Edward Norton 3-yard touchdown run, both of which came in the second quarter of play within 2 minutes of each other. And then a 35-yard touchdown pass from Cade Wentz, delivered to Jeremiah Hartfield. 8:52 left in the second. That made it 21-0. And LA Valley is looking to strike, get their first points of this ball game. Creeping closer to halftime. 3:26 on the clock in the second quarter. Chevalier takes it up the middle. Touchdown, LA Valley. That's Fuller. He's going to get into the end zone. And so LA Valley, the gamble on 4th and 1 from the 3 pays off. And it is points for the LA Valley Monarchs for the first time in 2021.
Yes, and you see the excitement from the visiting sideline, and I think that's something that's going to bode well. Hopefully on defense they can contain the Lancers' offensive attack too, so they can go into half with some momentum.
Looking to kick here for LA Valley College, and getting that wide left will end up being Guillermo Collin. And Collin sends that again wide left, so it will be 21-6. And LA Valley gets the touchdown, but they aren't able to continue getting that extra point on the board. Nonetheless, they have their first score of 2021, and it's now 21-6, Pasadena City College with the lead. You are watching Pasadena City College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. Speaking of SportsNetUSA.net, you know, if you just can't get enough community college football and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I love Pasadena City College and LA Valley, but you know what? I'm a connoisseur of all sports in community college. Well, SportsNetUSA.net has just the thing for you. We've got 4 games going on right now. Pasadena City College in addition to LA Valley, all the way down in Escondido. You've got Golden West and Palomar in addition to Fullerton College taking on Cerritos. Lots of SportsNetUSA.net live here with community college football that you can tune in and watch as LA Valley is getting set to kick once more, as Collin is going to take it from the left-hand side. Back to receive for Pasadena City College. It's going to be Jeremiah Hartfield. In addition to what looks like Justin Campbell. Both are deep play threats. This will go up to Campbell. Campbell is going to take it from the far hash. Campbell along the near side. He gets a block. Campbell on the left-hand side gets past one, jumps past another, finally gets wrapped up at the 48-yard line. And that is a nice return for Justin Campbell. Looking at a 26-yard return.
Tackles, number 31, P.J. Trusty, and number 38, William Kalanji.
So the 49-yard line is where they will end up spotting it. 21-6 is our score with 3:10 left to go here in quarter number 2. Ryan Osborn, Noah Alvarez, live on the air here on SportsNetUSA.net. Motion before the snap. Here's Wentz dropping back. He gets hit as he throws, but he's got a man wide open. It's Hartfield. He gets past one. He goes towards the end zone. Touchdown, Lancers! 51-yard touchdown strike as Cade Wentz knew he was going to get decked, but he still steps up into that throw and gets it over to Hartfield, and Hartfield once again has shown why he is the deep threat for PCC, and they make it a 27-6 ball game.
And it looked like the Monarchs secondary was ready for that. Their defensive backs were giving plenty of cushion, but Hartfield able to make a nice move at about the 10-yard line, which really set him free for the easy touchdown. Just need to be more disciplined and attack the ball a little bit more if you're the Monarchs on defense.
Ball up into the air and good. 28-6. So just as LA Valley College gets themselves on the board for the first time in 2021, Pasadena City College returns the favor just one play in. So back-to-back big plays for Pasadena City College, and they are able to get themselves in the end zone. It starts off with that 28-yard return by Justin Campbell. He gets them in good position, and as you mentioned, Noah, it looked like they were ready for it. The DBs go back trying to prevent that big play, but all they needed was Hartfield to find just a little open space on this near sideline, and even though Wentz was going to get hit, he still lays out a good throw. Hartfield comes back for it, and you see that juke he's able to put on right about the 21-yard line, and after that, it was home free.
And you know what that does, too, for the Pasadena City College offense is to now open up running lanes, because now they're going to be so concerned about blowing the top over the defensive coverage. The Monarchs are going to try and walk linebackers back, not maybe send as much pressure, and that should open holes for the Lancers running game.
28-6 is our score as this one gets booted deep into the air. Going all the way back is Ellison, and he will let that ball go out of bounds.
Kickoff is on a run. Goes into the end zone for a touchback.
So LA Valley is going to take over at their 25-yard line with just under 3 minutes to play here in the second quarter. Ryan Osborn, Noah Alvarez, SportsNetUSA.net, delivering you live coverage of community college football, Pasadena City College Lancer football to be exact, here on SportsNetUSA.net. Pasadena City College is looking to defend once more with under 3 minutes to play. 28-6 is our score. Chevalier goes back into the gun. He receives the snap, fires it over towards the left. It goes into the awaiting arms of Batarse, and Batarse gets 4 before he is brought down at the 30-yard line. Clock still winding down.
His pass completed to number 6, Blake Batarse.
For LA Valley, they already have taken 2 of their timeouts. They have 1 remaining here in the first half.
It's number 34, Ryan Pastrana.
On the other side for Pasadena City College, they have also taken 2. Chevalier drops that snap initially, and he gets taken down by 4 different Lancers who were there, and it looks like the one who ends up getting the sack is Michelangelo Loretto. 6 foot, 245 freshman, redshirt freshman out of Arcadia. And he is able to get that sack once more. That's his second of the ball game. He also has a pass defended as he broke one up at the line of scrimmage. 28-6 is our score, a loss of 8 yards on the play. 3rd and 13 at the 22-yard line. Both teams with 1 timeout left, 1:41 left on the clock in the second quarter. Back is Chevalier. He's going to go on the right-hand side. He finds a receiver initially who gets out of one tackle, breaks past another, and finally goes out of bounds. That is Dante Coxum, and he gets a first down.
And Coxum was one of the few bright spots in last week's loss to Mount Sac. He was able to get a lot of playing time. Obviously, it was during garbage time, what a lot of people call, but he was able to make elusive moves, catching passes out of the backfield, usually matched up with a linebacker or a safety, and he's elusive enough in the open field to get some extra yards and make that first defender miss.
So 28-6 is our score, 1:29 showing on the clock. With under 2 to play here in the second quarter, Chevalier goes back into the gun. He's going to take it up himself, tries to move the football forward and gains 4. Brings himself up to the 40-yard line on the dot, and it's a second down and 6 to go. Loretto on the right-hand side for Pasadena City College. Also back in coverage will be DJ Perrin. Linebacker on the left who is bluffing forward is Adrian Nava. Loretto bringing the pressure right up the middle. He ends up getting a quarterback hit, but it's taken down to Fuller, and Fuller will gain 10. That's exactly what LA Valley needed to keep this drive going. The clock is still ticking, and it will continue to do so after they reset the football.
Tackle by number 13, Salah O'Day. 8 yards and a LA Valley first down at the 48.
Chevalier goes back, right-hand side, flips it up into the awaiting arms of Batarse, and he is able to gain 17 yards. All the way down to the 34-yard line he will fly, and LA Valley continues to move the football. Clock stops at 34 once they reset the football, and the call goes. The clock will continue to wind, and it is a spike there for LA Valley College. So they are able to stop the clock, and it will be a second down and 10. Adrian Nava will run to the sideline as Lucio Rodriguez will take over for him. He's joined out there by Jordan Monroe in addition to Roland Rodriguez. Michelangelo Loretto, Samuel Oviedo, in addition to Frank Coleman Jr. Coleman Jr. out of Damien High School. On the right-hand side, LA Valley is going to see a blitz and an interception. Far sideline, it looks like it's Spence. Spence down the far sideline, gets over one. He's still on his feet down to the 49-yard line. A flag comes in late, but Spence with another big-time play here for Pasadena City. He's got a punt block, he has an interception, and he has a sack as well to his name.
Miscommunication between Chevalier, the receiver, and his receiver that was running the route, Don Harrell. Harrell continued to run a streak down the sideline.
So that will be sideline interference as the official tried to run with the football, and he wasn't able to as someone impeded his path along that far sideline. And that will add 15 yards to the end of the play. So initially it was going to be placed at the 48-yard line. They're going to drop it all the way back to the 33.
15-yard penalty puts the ball on the LA Valley 33.
.16 seconds on the clock. One timeout to use for Pasadena City College. On the right-hand side, they go with Wheeler Smith. In the slot on the right is Jabari Kindle. They get the sign to go. 16 seconds on the clock. Dropping back is Wentz. He wants to go deep strike. He's still looking for a receiver. He's got a guy behind him. Tosses it towards the sideline, and it's incomplete. He had a guy in Justin Campbell who was trying to go against his momentum, but just couldn't able to correct in time. And it is an incomplete pass, and Pasadena City will reload with 8 seconds on the clock. And Noah, if you're Pasadena City College, you've got just enough time to go for one attempt at the end zone, and if you trust your kicker enough, then you can go for the field goal attempt from here, but that's going to be close to a 50-yard attempt at this point. 8 seconds left. Dropping back is Wentz. Wentz moving up into the pocket, fires a laser downfield, and it's nearly intercepted. Right there was Isaiah Aziz. And with 1 second left, they're actually going to wind the clock all the way down. An extra 3 seconds clicked off the time clock, and it looks like they may readjust that. Two seconds are left.
Please reset the game clock to 2 seconds. 2 seconds left in the half.
That's what we were suspecting as well here on SportsNetUSA.net. As soon as that ball was released and landed on the floor, there were about 2 to 3 seconds left on the clock, but the clock kept ticking. So both sidelines thought it was halftime initially, but the near side official said, hey, I've got the clock running on my hand watch, so we're going to reset that to 2 seconds left. So Pasadena City College with one more opportunity to go for the end zone. They will also receive going out of halftime. So here's a chance for Pasadena City College, and a timeout will be taken by the Lancer sideline.
They're third and last in the half.
So with 2 seconds left here in the first half of play, our score is 28-6, Pasadena City College with the lead. You are watching Pasadena City College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ryan Osborn, Noah Alvarez, live from the city of Pasadena's Robinson Stadium. And Noah, when you look at Robinson Stadium, you and I were talking about it, this is one of the more beautiful community college stadiums that we have seen in our time going around Southern California. And Robinson Stadium is named after two significant people in Pasadena City College athletics. One guy played for the football team, the other guy ended up running track and field. And if you guessed Jackie and Mac Robinson, you would have been correct. Both of those guys, legends here at Pasadena City College. Jackie Robinson holding multiple records that still stand. Going back is Wentz. He's looking for the sideline. He's got a man on the far side. It's going up and getting the ball and hauling it in will be Hartfield. Touchdown Lancers. Is it Hartfield? They're actually going to say it's Justin Campbell. Spectacular grab there by Justin Campbell. And he is able to get Pasadena City College back on the board, 34-6 with time expiring. So time expiring on the clock, and Justin Campbell ends up going up and getting that football. Kick is up, kick is away, and the kick is through the uprights. That's going to bring us to the half. as Pasadena City College with a big-time lead at 35-6, as you see on the scoreboard there. The Lancers leading it by 29 points. As we go to the half, you are watching Pasadena City College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. As both of these two teams get set to take the field once more. Ryan Osborn, Noah Alvarez on the call as we get set for the third quarter of play. 35-6 is our score. We were mentioning the fans in the stands. We can't wait to have fans at some point in the future, but for now you can stay tuned here on SportsNetUSA.net. Pasadena City College, LA Valley, live here on SportsNetUSA.net. Pasadena City has been in the command throughout the entirety of this ball game after about, we'll say, the 8-minute mark of the first quarter of play, as LA Valley is going to kick off to start off this second half. And Pasadena City College, who ended up sending the ball away to LA Valley to start off this game, will receive. Now remember, they scored to walk it off into halftime. They had a touchdown pass to Justin Campbell, a 36-yard touchdown strike that allowed them to have additional points going into the half. 35-6. It was 28-6 at the time. But they are able to get back on the board just before the half, knowing that they would get the ball anyways. So they had that opportunity to go for the end zone. They were successful in converting it. As we get set for the second half of play, Ryan Osborn and Noah Alvarez live on the call with you. Guillermo Collin will get set to kick it away, but we have a couple of whistles as LA Valley will be going from right to left, and Pasadena City College will be going from left to right. Now it looked like LA Valley had an extra guy on the field. They had 12, so they were able to stop play and get everything back. Now they're checking on how many guys are out there for Pasadena City College.
Back to receive for the Lancers for 4.
Back for Pasadena City College. They've got a couple guys back with Jabari Kindle in addition to Justin Campbell. Campbell's on the far side of the field as we get set for half number 2 between LA Valley and Pasadena City College. Kickoff is up. It's away. It's going to go up into the air to the far sideline where it will be a return coming up by Austri, and Austri is able to carry it just for a shade, just about 11 yards on the return, and he brings it right up to the 45-yard line. So that's where Pasadena City College will take over, looking to put some points on the board coming into the second half of play. As Coach Robert Tucker, again, looking for his first win as the head coach and director of football operations at Pasadena City. Wide off to the right will be Wheeler Smith. He led the team in receptions and yards last week. Far off to the left-hand side is Justin Campbell. In the slot on the left is Jeremiah Hartfield, who has been spectacular in this one. In the backfield is Miles Anderson. Anderson is going to get the handoff. He gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage, gets an extra 3, and he will end up bringing it up to the 48-yard line, and that is where we begin the second half of play.
The carry by number 6, Miles Anderson. Tackle by number 31, P.J. Trusty. Gain of 2 on the play, 2nd and 8 from
Live here in the third quarter. You can see Pasadena City College on your left, LA Valley on your right. Going into motion is Hartfield from right to left. They're going to fake the handoff. Here's a chance for Wentz up the field. He's got a man wide open, and it's caught by Keegan Cuff. Keegan Cuff runs over a man at the 23-yard line, and he will get himself down to the 21. It's a big-time game for Pasadena City College. 33 yards. And it will bring Pasadena City College deep into LA Valley College territory.
1st and
The Monarchs trying to defend here at their own 21-yard line. Wide off to the right is Wheeler Smith. 6'1" sophomore out of Pasadena. Taking a look is Wentz. Dances around in the pocket. He's going to take it himself. Jukes past one, gets up to the secondary, but instead he gets wrapped up and taken down by Isaiah Johnson. He gains just about 5 yards on it, make it 4, and brings himself up to the 17. Running off the field will be Justin Campbell, or excuse me, Miles Anderson. Wheeler Smith off wide to the right. In the slot on the right-hand side is Jabari Kindle. Justin Campbell far off to the left. In the backfield is going to be Hartfield. He doesn't get the handoff. Instead, they're going to push it back over towards the left with Austri. He tries to get up to the first down marker, and he will get right up to about the 11-yard line is where they will mark him down, and he will get the first down. So 1st and 10 from the 11. They have to get to at least the 1-yard line to get a first down. Very close to a 1st and goal chance for Pasadena City College, but they are once again threatening to score inside the red zone. (35-6) is our score. 12:20 showing on the clock and ticking down. Cade Wentz, 5'10" sophomore out of San Marino High School, will end up seeing a timeout taken by Pasadena City College as they weren't able to kind of figure out what was going on the offensive side of the football. They're going to have a chance to make sure they're all on the same page here. Timeout with 12:10 left to go in the third quarter of play. 35-6 is our score. You are watching Pasadena City College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ryan Osborn, Noah Alvarez to my left. He's the camera guy and the guy bringing you these sights and sounds here on Saturday night. Lots of games here on SportsNetUSA.net, and you and I were talking about it before. When you look at SportsNetUSA.net, leader in community college football, because we've got games going on all around Southern California. Escondido, Cerritos, Pasadena City as well. Then coming up on the schedule, you've got some East LA, you've got some LA Valley as well. Everywhere you look, SportsNetUSA.net is there with the coverage. 35-6 is our score here in the third quarter of play. The snap is taken. Cade Wentz wants to take it himself, has a blocker, gets up into the secondary, and he gets in the end zone. Touchdown, the Lancers. 35-6 is no more. And that is going to be an additional 6 to make it 41-6. And Pasadena City College once again with the score.
And one thing I was able to notice on this drive, Ryan, they took out their defensive line, the Monarchs defense, and they just went all linebackers. They went 6 linebackers up at the line of scrimmage, trying to bring a different look on the defensive side of the ball. But I think once the Lancers figured that out, they just decided to run down their throat, and they had no answer for that.
Contreras is able to get it right through the uprights, and so he will end up bringing it to a 42-6 score. And when you look at these Lancers, they put up a big-time fight against Cerritos College last week. So it's not necessarily surprising that they end up putting points on the board here because they were able to move the ball. It was just a matter of turnovers. They turned the ball over 6 times, 6 interceptions in that ball game. And this has been something that they have not only corrected, but they've flipped it to the other side. They've taken the ball away twice and also got a punt block. So when you look at Pasadena City College, the way that they've played has just been a complete turnaround when you look at the turnover aspect. This is a very Robert Tucker type of game. You end up using the defense to convert into offense. If you're able to get points on the board, awesome. You get that execution going, awesome. But if you can limit the big plays on the other side, if you can force the opposing team to have to grind out first downs and be happy with the fact that they get a first down, well, that is where the success will lie in a system coached by Coach Tucker. Ball is kicked away. It's going to go all the way to the far side of the field where Ellison will take it over. He runs into 3 different guys, tries to reverse the field, goes to the other side. He's got a blocker there. He's got to get to the edge. He does. He gets up to the 30, 33, 30. to the 50. He will fly into open space. He's only got one man to beat. Getting up to him is Spence. He's still got a blocker with him. Blocker up the sideline and into the end zone. Touchdown, LAVC.
Touchdown.
However, not a big-time celebration, as it looked like LA Valley may have a flag on the other side. We'll see what the official call is. It's sideline interference going against Pasadena City, and it is a return for a touchdown.
Wow.
Jelani Ellison with a big-time return. If I'm not mistaken, that is a 96-yard touchdown because he took it at the 4, and he brings it all the way across and into the end zone. So a big-time play for LA Valley, and they are right back in this ball game with a score.
And that was one thing I mentioned at the top of the recording, or the top of the stream, was that despite being shut out by Mount Sac last week, one of their bright spots was their kick return unit. They were able to get to the 40 consistently. Jelani Ellison was one of the big factors for that. He was actually averaging 35 yards per kickoff return. You see there, he was able to change direction not only once but twice on that return, find the opening crease, and he has that explosive speed, but he's also very smooth in his cuts where he's able to find the opening holes. Does so there. I think that's a big play. Let's see if this gets the Monarchs back into things and keeps them competitive and keeps their spirits up on their sideline.
LA Valley going to go for 2 here. 42-6 is our score. That's going to change as it's going to go to 42-12. Here's Moore trying to get to the edge. He is stopped there. Nonetheless, 6 points go on the board for LA Valley.
Run by number 22, Julian Moore.
And that is going to change the outlook of this game, as LA Valley, they've just got to start chipping away at this big lead that Pasadena City College has. And if you're the LA Valley Monarchs, you mentioned it, Noah, this is a chance for them to get some confidence going and start to get their offense going once more.
Yeah, the big thing is they need to get some stops on the defensive end. We saw in that last drive, I'm interested to see if they go back to it, just an all linebacker front, no defensive line. I think they might be thin at the defensive line, and that's why they decided to pull, but they weren't getting much of a push or pass rush when they would drop back. The Lancers did on that last offensive possession. And then whenever they chose to run the ball, or they were getting 4 or 5 yards a pop, moving the ball with ease, those O-line creating big holes against these linebackers trying to take on the blocks.
11:35 showing on the clock, 42-12. It's now a 30-point difference between both of them. There's a penalty that went against Pasadena City College that marches the football 15 yards up the field up to the 50-yard line.
I believe that's the 3rd time we've seen a sideline infraction called in today's game.
It's hard when you're one of those players on the sideline. You're so vested or invested in the game, you start to creep up a little towards the sideline. I mean, me as a sideline reporter earlier on with either LA Valley or Fullerton College as well, you start kind of creeping up towards the sideline because you get more interested in how the ball game is going. And all of a sudden you find yourself, unfortunately, in the way of the official. Contact is made before that ball goes past 10 yards. And that will end up being a flag against LA Valley. And they will restart it. So just as they get the additional 15 yards, it's an offsides against LA Valley. And they will kick now from the 45-yard line on the near hash. And for LA Valley, they were going with an onside kick with 11:35 left here in the 3rd quarter of play. 42-12 is our score. Live from beautiful Robinson Stadium in Pasadena on the campus of Pasadena City College. Ryan Osborn, Noah Alvarez as LA Valley gets set to kick it away once more. Are they going to go onside kick? No, they will not. They will boot it all the way to the up back. It's muffed initially, picked up by Justin Campbell. Campbell tries to get away from one. He's got a block to go. Block on the right-hand side. Flag comes flying in from the backfield, and he gets up to the 37-yard line. But, again, a flag goes flying at the 22. That comes from behind the play, so usually that's going to be block in the back type territory or a hold.
Illegal block in the back.
And there's the block in the back going against Pasadena City.
Penalty from the spot foul. Result of the play is a first down.
So it's 10 yards from the spot of the foul. And they're going to say the foul happened at the 20-yard line. So they will start at the 10. First and 10, Pasadena City College, and 90 yards to go until the end zone. This is a big chance for LA Valley on the other side. If they are able to get a stop, this would bring a lot of momentum to them. Edward Norton goes in for Pasadena City College. Definitely a threat to run. He had 30 rushes for 36 yards. Or excuse me, he had 10 rushes for 36 yards last week against Cerritos. He hands it off. Running it up near the sideline will end up being Kenneth Russell, the 5'7" freshman out of Hesperia. Ends up getting taken down after a gain of 1.
1 yard carry.
42-12 is our score.
George Meridians.
And it looks like the Monarchs are mixing things up once again, bringing out 2 defensive linemen, George Moradians and Julio Cortez, both on the left side. The rest up in the front, Ryan, all linebackers.
In the backfield is Miles Anderson. Snap is taken by Norton. They're going to give it up to Norton. He takes it himself. He ends up gaining 3, and he will be brought back down. Whistles go flying, and so does the football, but it's after the play. So they've got the ball up to the 15-yard line. Pasadena City College kind of changing what their point of attack is going to be, as Edward Norton brings a different dimension to how this team is able to get things going offensively. For Norton, 6'1" sophomore out of Southgate. He will go into the shotgun. Off to his left is Miles Anderson. In the slot on the right-hand side is Jabari Kindle. He's got Wheeler Smith next to him. He's going to take it himself. Gets stuck in the backfield, gets a block. Trying to get away, looking for at least 5 yards. Gets taken down. Does the ball come loose? And LA Valley thinks that they have it. Have they indeed recovered is the question. The official initially talking to Isaiah Johnson. And they are going to say that that ball got out of bounds before anyone was able to actually maintain possession. That's the initial call, at least. They're still convening to see whether or not there was actual possession picked up by LA Valley at the sideline, or did he step out of bounds prior to making contact with it, and that's exactly what happens. It is Pasadena City College. So it is a first down for Pasadena City. That ball comes loose, but it just scoots away from the outstretched arms of Isaiah Johnson. Isaiah Johnson, the 6'2" sophomore out of Crenshaw. Very close to a big-time play. Zayed Zahir is the one who forced the fumble. Came in from behind on Norton. Norton's going to take the snap. He'll pitch it over towards Jabari Kindle. Kindle finds the outside. He will end up getting 7, but a flag goes flying in from the 26-yard line. 42-12 is our score. That's going to be a hold going against Pasadena City, as Chris Cordova, the 5'9" sophomore out of LA, ends up getting called for it.
And Ryan, you think if you were the Lancers right now and you see the lots of linebackers in for the Monarch defense, instead of trying to run outside, side to side, get things going laterally, why not just run it and pound it up the middle just like they did in that previous possession, the one which resulted in a touchdown?
42-12 is our score. 8:54 showing on the clock here in the third quarter of play. Pasadena City College with a 1st and 20. Norton trying to get to the outside. He ends up giving it up to Kenneth Russell. Russell gets taken down after gaining just about 2.5. So he gets himself up to the 19-yard line, and it's now a 2nd down. And looking at about 17 to go. They've got to get up to the 36-yard line. And they're currently sitting at the 19. Make it the 18. Norton calls for motion. Norton drops back. Norton looking for a teammate. He ends up rushing right up the middle and ends up sliding down after a total gain of 4. He saw 4 different Monarchs getting set to approach him, the first of which being Michael Crowder. And he decided to give himself up on the play, and with a 3rd down and 15 to go, Pasadena City College finds themselves with a lot of territory to make up. And again, LA Valley seeing the clock tick down. That's one of the things with bringing in Edward Norton is that clock begins to make its tracks down and further away from the grasp of the Monarchs. Snap is taken. Norton going back. Norton, left-handed thrower, looking for a teammate. Still doesn't have anyone. Tosses up the middle and intercepted. LA Valley has it. They say that they have possession, and it looks like it's going to be taken away by Dennis Wallace. 5'10" out of Gardena. It's an interception, and it goes to the 38-yard line. And for Pasadena City College, their drive will end there. However, we have a flag on the far side.
After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct. On Valley, 15-yard penalty. Result of the play is a first down.
That's going to be an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty going against LA Valley. And it's going to be on the spin of the ball afterwards, after the interception takes place. A great play that was brought by Dennis Wallace as he steps in front of the route and is able to pick it off. The ball gets marched back to the 47-yard line of LAVC, and they've got a 1st and 10. So, Noah, they just scored on their last offensive possession. Well, we put that in quotation marks, offensive possession, because it was actually a kick return for a touchdown. They get a defensive stop, which they needed. Now all of a sudden, LA Valley with a little bit of momentum directly behind them and trying to capitalize once more. This Pasadena City College defense has to come up large here. Going back, tossing up the sideline, and Spence is nearly able to get his 2nd interception of the day. He stepped in front of it, and it goes in and out of his hands. It is, in fact, a pass breakup for him, but he has been tremendous for Pasadena City College in this one.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier in the broadcast. Had a big game week 1 against the Cerritos Falcons. This week coming up just as big, too, because Dupree Fuller, standing at 6'3", 225 pounds, he uses every single inch of his body to create separation, unable to do so there on that back shoulder fade attempt.
So Chevalier goes back, brings it over towards the left. He's going to deliver a strike into the hands of Dante Coxum. Coxum is only able to get back to the line of scrimmage. Spence is going to go back to the sideline. And LA Valley is now looking at a 3rd and long. 10 yards to go. They've got to get up to the Pasadena City College 44-yard line. Make it the 43-yard line to get themselves a 1st down. The clock keeps winding down. 6:30 exactly left in this 3rd quarter of play. Down by 30 are the LA Valley Monarchs, and Pasadena City College has been in control for most of this game. Chevalier goes back looking for a teammate at the sideline, and the catch is made presumably by Fuller. And they're going to say that it is incomplete. So a 4th down coming up for LAVC. 6:18 is where the clock stops. Now here's the risky business here for Pasadena City. With how well they have played in this ball game, they can march Hartfield back and go back into full coverage. They already have a punt block in this one. That was thanks to Spence, and it delivered them points on the ensuing drive. Kalanji gets it away high into the air. Hartfield backing up on it, says fire. He's going to allow everyone to get back. It takes a healthy LAVC bounce, and it will spin all the way down to the 15-yard line. So Pasadena City College gets the football back with 6:07 left to go on the clock in the 3rd quarter. 42-12 is the score with Pasadena City College on top. You are watching Pasadena City College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. You know what? While I may be fumbling and tripping over my words, Pasadena City College has not been. They have truly been able to march the ball up the field with the exception of that last drive and basically score whenever they needed to. They bring back Wentz, who has commanded this offense for the majority of the time. Only 2 different offensive series. Edward Norton has been in the backfield at quarterback for Pasadena City. They go quickly out to Austria. Austria on the left-hand side. Lots of contact there, and he ends up gaining just about 4 yards is where they will mark him at down. Right at the 20, we'll say in between the 19 and the 20-yard line. So the 19 and a half. Marching off the field on the far side will be Kenneth Russell.
4-yard pass play. Tackles by number 32, Isaiah Johnson. Number 47, Richard Graham.
42-12 is our score. 5.5 to go. Clock still winding down, which is exactly what Pasadena City College is looking for. Fumble there is trying to pick it up as Wentz. He does get it away and tosses it out of bounds. That is a wise play from a quarterback in Cade Wentz, because too often, especially at the college level, you'll see a quarterback drop the football like that, scoop it up, and decide, hey, I'm just going to lob one downfield and hope that one of my guys are there or in the general vicinity. Instead, he wisely tosses it out of bounds. Yes, the clock does stop, but he's able to get another down and not a turnover, which is normally what we would see in that situation.
And we saw it earlier in the first half, too. In a similar situation, he decided to run backwards and created even a bigger loss. So he's learning from his mistakes in game.
Here's Wentz. Wentz drops the ball. It's on the floor. Trying to get up to it once again is Dennis Wallace. Does he have the football? He does not. He was in on the play once more. Alan Laredo saves the day for the Lancers, and it's going to be 4th down and 12 to go. And an official's timeout.
Looked like a big collision between
it is
Wallace.
Dennis Wallace who ends up going in for the fumble recovery. And in that big collision with Alan Loretto, it is Loretto who ends up getting the football. And everyone takes a knee here as Wallace, who already has a fumble recovery in this, or excuse me, an interception in this ball game that came on the last offensive drive for Pasadena City College. And now all of a sudden, he ends up getting hurt here. So with 5 minutes exactly on the clock, an official's timeout with with the third quarter winding down. 42-12 is our score, as the Pasadena City College Lancers have a 30-point lead over LAVC. You are watching Lancer football right here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ryan Osborn, Noah Alvarez over to my left-hand side. Live here from Pasadena. We're going to get you some scoring updates from the state of California coming up here in just a moment. And Noah, when you look at this ball game, it has had its waves of offense, and then all of a sudden the defense for both teams just kind of shows up.
Yeah, obviously in the first quarter, both teams went scoreless, so it was a relatively quiet first quarter. And here in the third quarter, we've seen a score from each opponent, but obviously the Monarchs, it's worth mentioning, there was via kick return, so their offense hasn't been able to score in the second half yet. But it's kind of very similar. I think you want to say it's maybe a little due to conservative play calling. Teams just kind of getting a feeling for each other out, maybe trying to set some things later down the field. We did see in the second quarter, Pasadena was able to open up and take some deeper shots because they are able to set up the run game in the first quarter. So we could be seeing a similar effect here in this third and fourth quarter for the Lancers.
Scoring update from around SportsNetUSA.net. Fullerton and Cerritos are tied at 14. That's a big-time game. Again, both of those two teams in 2019 ended up playing to a shootout. I mean, you were there along with myself, Corey Nalen, Mark Pavlovich as well, up at Falcon Stadium. And to say that that game was wild with the offense is an understatement. I mean, they were, if I remember correctly, almost 90 points combined between both of those two teams. If I remember right, it was 45-42. And Cerritos won by a 3-point advantage because Fullerton had an interception late in the ballgame.
If I remember correctly, too, I want to say Fullerton had a field goal blocked at some point in the game as well. And that
in the fourth quarter.
Right. So that ended up coming to bite them because that was the difference right there, 3 points. But you love to see those two teams battle back and forth. Both programs are relatively well-renowned in the Southern California area. And if you're a player who lives across that 91 freeway or in that vicinity, those are two programs that you really want to look at if you're going to play community college level ball, because that's not only programs that do well on wins and losses, but they do well as far as putting players out to the next level.
Kick goes away from Cayden Wentz. He gets run into just a shade. It's going to go all the way up to the 50, and it's going to keep rolling on for Wentz. It gets all the way to the 44-yard line. So officially, that is going to be just about a 41-yard punt. If my math is correct. Close. I was close, see? 43. I'm getting there.
Off by 1.
It went from off by 8 to off by 4. Now we're off by 1. Actually, 2. Great. It's gone back. Never mind. I take it all back. But we continue with the scoring updates as LAVC gets to come back onto the field. East LA here on SportsNetUSA.net is up 28-7 over Chaffee. That was a team in Chaffee that went down to the American Division for 2 years, ends up nearly undefeated both years, gets an American Division championship, and then all of a sudden finds themselves back in the the National Division. Snap gets taken. LA Valley hands it off over to Moore. Moore runs into his own blocker, who decides, you know what, I'm going to take you across the sticks, as Taleem Thompson is there, the big guy. 6'6" out of Salem, New Jersey. Decides, you know what, I'll take you in my arms. And he brings him forward for an additional 4 after the contact.
Yeah, both tackles for the Monarchs. Taleem Thompson, like you said, stands at 6'6". Over on the other side, Ethan Hazan, 6'8", 400 pounds. Over on the edge, really good size for the Monarchs.
Dropping back is Chevalier. He goes over towards the left to Moore, and it goes in and out of his hands. So incomplete pass, 45-yard line is where LAVC is.
And you know
Sticking with SportsNetUSA.net and the rest of the teams here on SportsNetUSA.net tonight. Golden West is entering the fourth quarter in their game, 17-0 with the lead over Palomar. 42-12 is our score with 4:12 left to play in the third quarter. More of a methodical approach here in quarter number 3 between both of these two sides. That's as they try to run the clock out for Pasadena's side. LAVC is trying to gain some ground. Pitch over towards the left to Moore. Run is the call by everyone on the Pasadena City College sideline, and they are able to force Moore out of bounds for a total gain of 1 yard. So a 3rd down and 9 coming up.
Lucio Rodriguez. 1 yard on the carry. Bringing the 3rd down from the 44.
Over towards the right-hand side, into the awaiting arms of Dallas Martin. Martin is able to get himself the 1st down and some, a total gain of 12. That was a really nice throw by Chevalier. As off to the far side, he led Martin into that throw as well. And they are able to get themselves back into dangerous territory here. Currently at the 31, make it the 32-yard line. Snap is taken. Going back, tossing deep. Here's a chance on the far sideline that goes just out of the outstretched arm of Fuller.
Chevalier's pass intended for number 5, Dupree Fuller, is incomplete.
So Fuller will see that go out of bounds just beyond his arms. 3:12 left to go on the clock in the third.
One name I felt like we haven't called enough tonight, Deandre Smith over on the Monarchs offense. He was the deep threat for the Monarchs last week, and while he finished the game with 0 catches, they always try to get him deep. We haven't seen a lot of balls thrown his way tonight against the Lancers.
42-12 is our score. It's dropped back to Chevalier. He goes deep on the near sideline. He's got a guy, Deandre Smith. He catches it. Touchdown, LAVC.
Touchdown, LA Valley.
So LA Valley gets a deep strike that ends up going all 33 yards to the house, and Deandre Smith now makes it 42-19. So the difference is still a little wide, but LA Valley with the momentum at the current point.
It was only a matter of time. I talked with Coach Lester Towns at the beginning of the season. He said Deandre Smith is going to be an impact player on this year's offense. One of the fastest players he has on this team. He's a sophomore, standing at 6 foot flat from Inglewood, California. And it was only a matter of time before they try to get him out over the top on this Lancers secondary.
42-18 is our score. Delivery off to the right. Here's a chance for Fuller. Incomplete, but there is a flag. And it looks like it's going to be an offsides or encroachment. That's what the initial umpire movement was, but LAVC is marching off the field. So it ends up being an illegal motion going against LAVC beforehand. It is declined on Pasadena City College side. So that is going to bring us to a 42-18 score with 3:03 left to go in the third quarter of play. It is Pasadena City with the lead, 42-18. You are watching Pasadena City College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. Scoring update from across SportsNetUSA.net. The Hornets get in the end zone. It's 20-14. Fullerton College over top of the Falcons. Again, Pasadena City College played Cerritos just this last week. Really competitive side between both of those two teams. Pasadena City College was able to get some yardage on Cerritos, which not many people thought that many teams would be able to do. They finished with over 210 yards of offense overall, as this is a squib kick up the middle. It goes into the arms of Austri. Austri wants to go down the right sideline. Austri gets past two, waiting for a blocker, trying to stiff arm a guy, and goes all the way out of bounds, and then gets wrapped up well out. As a couple of players go back and forth and end up seeing a Pasadena City College Lancer hit the deck.
12 yards on the kick return in Lancers ball. First and 10 from the 43.
Time is taken for the moment being an official's timeout as there's an injured Lancer on the sideline. 2:55 left to go in the third quarter of play. 42-18 is our score. Ryan Osborn, Noah Alvarez here on SportsNetUSA.net. Don't forget to keep tuning in to SportsNetUSA.net. Check the schedule continually, as you can see a lot of community college football here on SportsNetUSA.net in the coming weeks. Noah, when you look at both of these two sides, one thing that Pasadena has done very well today is block in the return game. They have really been able to get themselves upfield and make sure that they have adequate blockers going down the sidelines, and they have averaged on kickoff returns over 25 yards per return.
I think sometimes people watching football, they forget that special teams is a very important factor. Even if it comes down to just converting on PAT attempts, all those points and all those yards, all those starting field positions definitely do add up, and allows your offense to maybe call some different plays versus if they were backed up in their own 30.
Here's Wentz trying to go towards the near sideline. It goes in and out of the hands of Wheeler Smith. Are they going to say he makes the catch? They do. He gets himself into a slide, and it's a second down and 1 to go at the 48-yard line. So they are in Monarch territory once more. Coach Robert Tucker over to my right, getting a chance to talk to his defense. And just trying to make sure that they've got the coverage correct going into their next opportunity on the field. They've done a really good job here this afternoon. They've gotten to the quarterback. They've been in the backfield a lot. As Wentz with some miscommunication there, he's going to get wrapped up by 4 different Monarchs and taken down for an overall loss of 2.
I think things have gone a little sloppier. You mentioned it too defensively for the Lancers. They had been getting to the quarterback. They had been playing good coverage. But I feel like that last drive was a little too passive. They might be sprinkling in a few backups here and there, but you don't want to see them start being too passive and give the Monarchs a chance of thinking that they could get into this game.
3-yard loss on the play and bring up third down.
42-18 is our score. Snap goes directly back to Wentz. Wentz wants to deliver up the middle, and he's got a guy. It's going to be Jabari Kindle. Kindle down the sideline, off to the right. He's trying to get into a foot race down to the 20. The 15 is where he will be wrapped up. And that looked like it could have been disastrous for Pasadena City College as Wentz ends up getting decked as soon as he lets go of that football. But for the third time tonight, he gets contact on him and still delivers a strike.
That's one thing you need to do to be a quarterback at this next level. Not only make the throws when you're nice and pretty and untouched in your pocket. No, you have to make the throw when there's a defender lunging at you, about to lay a big hit in your chest. Take that hit, but also deliver an accurate ball.
Rolling over to his right is going to be Wentz looking for a teammate. He bounces out of one guy, side spins it over towards the near sideline, and it goes in and out of the hands of Wheeler Smith.
Wheeler Smith is incomplete.
.43 seconds left here in the third quarter. This third quarter almost feels like it's taken just the same amount of time as the first quarter and second quarter combined, but we've seen a lot more of a defensive battle from both of these two sides. 42-18, two scores for LA Valley College in this third quarter of play. Pasadena City College trying to get one of their own. Austri gets past one tackle. Point of contact, adds 5 yards to it, and it will make it a 3rd down and 6 to go. Initially, there was contact in the backfield, as it looked like getting back there was Michael Crowder. He gets away from that, is able to step away from the would-be tackler of Crowder, and finally gets taken down at the 13-yard line.
4 yards on the carry.
6 seconds, 4. They're going to let it tick all the way down. That's the end of the third quarter of play between Pasadena City and LAVC. 42-18 is our score. You are watching Pasadena City College football here on Sportsnet USA.net. Ryan Osborn, Noah Alvarez bringing you the fourth quarter coming up here in a second as we continue to roll on here from Robinson Stadium here on the campus of Pasadena City College. When you look at how both of these two teams have played thus far, you look at this fourth quarter of play. If you're Pasadena or a Pasadena City College fan, what are you looking for from your squad to make sure that they get a victory in quarter number 4?
I think you want to keep your foot on the gas pedal. That doesn't mean run the clock out. Doesn't mean conservative play calling on defense. I think that means, yeah, sending a few more blitzes, sending a few extra pass rushers to get after the quarterback of the Monarchs. Also on offense, calling more plays up the middle. We've seen the Monarchs kind of turn to this hybrid / nickel dime defense where they're throwing a lot of linebackers rather than down defensive linemen. And in that first drive we saw in the second half, they were able to run the ball up the middle with quite a bit of success. But the Lancers have turned away from that. They've tried to go more lateral runs. They might try to go deep. And I feel like the Monarchs have responded well, but I think if they were just to pound it down the middle a few times, eat up that clock, they're going to get some points on the board too if they continue to do so.
So here's a chance for Pasadena City College to get themselves back on the board. Fake handoff towards the corner of the end zone. It is in the hands of Jabari Kindle. He makes the catch, however, he floats out of bounds on 3rd down and 6 to go. So 4th down and 6 coming up from the 17-yard line. And they are going to trot out the field goal unit. Actually, excuse me, it's the 12-yard line where this ball will be placed. So a field goal coming up, 29-yard attempt you can hear in the background. Big time chance here for Edson Zamarone, 6'2" sophomore out of Eagle Rock. Puts boot to it, goes up into the air, it's good. And Zamarone is able to get that through the uprights, and Pasadena City College adds a field goal to their total. So Zamarone gets his first field goal of the season. And for Zamarone, the sophomore, he gets 3 points added to his resume. It brings it to a 46-18 score. And Pasadena City College extends their lead. You are watching Pasadena City College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. One of the things that's always cool in those types of situations is the way that the team ends up responding to a teammate getting an opportunity to have something like that happen. You saw the entire sideline. As soon as that ball goes up into the air, they were cheering. They were raising their arms, happy for Zamarone as he was able to get a field goal. Yeah, it's in a 46-18 game. However, it still feels really good.
I think the kickers definitely deserve to be more loved because sometimes they get all the hate when things go wrong. Obviously, if it comes down to a tight game and let's say they're unable to convert on a field goal or so, teams or sometimes fans will even have negative attitudes toward them. So it's nice to see the love when things go well.
This goes all the way back into the waiting arms of Coxum. Coxum, far side. He will end up getting to the 32-yard line and get taken down. Now, I mentioned I'm not too good at math, but it was 42-18. Field goal should be 45-18 if I
You're right.
add it up right?
I believe it is supposed to be 45. They might be fixing that as we speak.
28 yards on the kick return.
That's one of the things here. We do want to mention how gracious and nice everyone here at Pasadena City College has been to us today. Yes. From the moment that we walked in, every single person that we have encountered has looked at us and said, hey, what do you need? Do you need a table? Do you need broadcast location? What about power? How about Ethernet as well to get yourselves on the air? Anything you need, we got it for you. And they have been extremely helpful and kind to us here on the broadcast. So we want to thank everyone at Pasadena City College who has given us the opportunity to broadcast from Robinson Stadium here tonight. That last pass from Chevalier goes incomplete as he was looking for Batarse up the middle. Batarse now lines up on the far sideline. Goes wide out to the left. On the near sideline, it's going to be Dallas Martin out wide to the right. In motion goes Deandre Smith. He will get the handoff on the left-hand side. Tries to spin out of one guy. Does so successfully. Ends up losing a yard, though, on the carry.
All the way down at the 41-yard line, right in front of the LA Valley sideline. So another first down for the Monarchs here. Methodical, just like we saw earlier in the third quarter.
Number 5, Mark Anderson, the third.
So when you look at LA Valley College, you talk about methodical, Noah. That's one thing that LA Valley has been in this third quarter. Methodical, but on occasion hitting that big play. We saw that big 33-yard touchdown strike earlier. Now the question is, do they go to something similar on that far side of the field? They've got a deep threat on the near side in Deandre Smith. Instead, he gets taken down. The ball is loose for a second. Who has it? And it looks like LA Valley was able to recover at the 50-yard line. Actually, they're going to bring it back just behind the 50. So that is a overall loss of 3. And a timeout is going to be taken by LA Valley. So our score is 45-18 here in the fourth quarter. 11:36 to go here on SportsNetUSA.net. You are watching Pasadena City College football right here on SportsNetUSA.net. Earlier we were talking about scoring updates. It's now 26-14 if I'm reading that correctly. The Hornets up on top of Cerritos, still 17-0 for Golden West at last check. And East LA 28-7. They have a lead over top of Chaffee. So again, 4 games here on SportsNetUSA.net. If you really wanted to be ambitious, you could pull all 4 of them up on your computer, 4 different windows, and because you decide, hey, you know what? I love community college football, so let me make sure and I tune in to all things SportsNetUSA.net as they are the leader in community college football. Again, LA Valley and Chaffee, Fullerton Cerritos, and Golden West Palomar, in addition to Pasadena City and LAVC, all of which live right here on SportsNetUSA.net. 11:36 to go here in the fourth quarter of play. Second down and quite some distance to go. Chevalier ends up going delayed screen over to Moore. He doesn't gain a yard. Goes right back to the line of scrimmage. And a nice wrap up there by Cayden Spence. It's still a little early in this ball game with 11 minutes left to go in this one, but Spence has been my star of the game in this one thus far.
Yeah, he's been wreaking havoc on one side, and when you have that kind of game-breaking corner, it really changes the dynamic of your defense and what you're able to do. We saw earlier in the first half, the Lancers were aggressive with their play calling, sending blitz after blitz, and they're able to do so because they trust Spence in one-on-one or in covering that side of the boundary, whatever side he's on. So what a luxury it is to have on that Lancer side of the ball.
Back to Chevalier. He ends up stepping up in the pocket, delivers. It's completed over to Fuller. Fuller gets wrapped up as soon as he ends up making the catch by Roland Rodriguez. And he is able to get just about 8 yards, make it 10 actually, as they bring him down to the 40-yard line, and it's a third down and 9 to go. Actually, excuse me, fourth down, as the far side marker was still trying to make sure they got the down right. Fourth down and 9. Chevalier in the backfield, going to take the snap, looking across the middle. It is caught, a leaping grab by Fuller, and he's still on his feet. He's going to get into the end zone. Touchdown, LAVC.
Touchdown, LA Valley.
So it was a jump back, almost fadeaway type catch that is made there by Fuller. And Fuller maintains his footing, getting past one and into the end zone for a touchdown. 45-24 now, as it's now brought down to a 21-point lead. So 3 scores in between both of these two sides, and LA Valley has decided that they are going to kick.
And I think when you're up this big, you're okay with your players taking a big risk. But right there, the safety, the lone safety in that play, Ragoso, he decides to undercut him. But obviously the ball was just thrown outside of his outstretched reach. Fuller able to haul that one in. Looks like we're going to have a delay of game penalty here.
Prior to the snap, delay of game on the kicking team. 5-yard penalty. Repeat the try.
Regardless, if this was a tight game, I could see your coach getting mad at you for taking a big risk like this. But when you're up by 3 or 4 scores, it's easy for you to forgive your player and be like, hey, just learn from it next time. Fuller with a nice catch.
So it's currently 45-24. They're going to line up for the extra point. We've got another flag.
I think they're going to get it right back.
They get clearance on who the penalty is on.
Prior to the snap, offsides, defense, number 24.
Carlos Ramirez.
Replay the try.
And as you mentioned, Carlos Ramirez is the guy who ends up giving it right back. So you were just talking about how on one side as a coach you say, you know what, you can learn from this. On the other side, same thing. Other coach says, you know what, Carlos, you're fine. Just learn from it. Next time we're good to go. And this gets blocked. So the extra point try ends up getting blocked by Pasadena City College, and another special teams big-time play for the Lancers.
And that was something that was a problem, too, last week against Mount Sac. LA Valley decided to go for a field goal. I believe it was about a 34 or 35-yarder. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they went for a field goal, and same thing. There was big penetration up the middle, unable to get a clear shot for their kicker, and they had that field goal blocked as well from the Mount Sac defensive lineman. That's something that they're going to need to, I think, progress on or work on the rest of this season. It's only week 2, Ryan, but we've seen them just flat out miss an extra point wide left, and then this one was blocked because there was good penetration from the middle. So going forward, they're going to either have to make the decision, hey, we're going to go all in on 2-point conversions, or we got to fix up our PAT, making sure we can get clean blocks and give them a clean lane to kick through.
But then you flip it on the other side for Pasadena City College. They have done an excellent job today in making sure that they get that initial pressure and making sure not only just that that pressure is there, but they time it right so that way they can get into the backfield and get those blocks. 2 blocks for them today, an extra point and a punt. as this will be squibbed right up the middle. Austri will take it once again, goes directly into contact, still on his feet, finally gets taken down. That's a big hit that is delivered by none other than the kicker himself in Guillermo Cullen.
Needed to blow off some steam right there, huh?
He lowered the shoulder and made sure that Austri was not going to go anywhere. That's one thing I will say about Austri as well. He's fielded 3 different kicks today because of the squibs, and he has been really sure-handed. He has taken some hits in this ball game and made sure that he kept the ball in his possession. Lancers are going to take the football starting at the 43-yard line. 1st and 10, they've got to get up to the 47 of LAVC for a first down. Wanting to take it himself is Wentz. He's not going to give himself up. He's got a blocker on the near side. He's trying to get over to the sideline, gets wrapped up initially, and he gets hit well late. Wentz gets up. He says he's okay. He's going to talk to his coach. He was already on the sideline by the time that he gets hit. It looked like it was a little bit of helmet-to-helmet contact. And we're going to see what the call is here, because targeting could be in play here.
David Francis Jr. was the one who laid the hit on him.
On the defense, number 57, 15 yards from the end of the run, first down.
They're just going to go with a late hit going out of bounds, so instead it will be a 15-yard penalty.
That is something they're trying to clean up on all levels of football, is leading with the head, preventing those head-to-head collisions, obviously, as they come out with more studies and understand the difference of brain damage there is in a future football, in a former football player's brain.
Daniel Phillips, the first time that he gets some action here, wide on the left-hand side. He's going to see this go up the middle to Hartfield again. Touchdown, Lancers! We're going to get what I believe is a taunting penalty in behind the play, and it looks like we could have 2 of them. The question is, did Hartfield get across the goal line before the penalty happens? They're bringing the ball all the way back. As soon as the touchdown is completed, Wentz goes over to the guy who hit him just moments ago out of bounds, and PJ Trusty, and starts celebrating right in front of Trusty. That's where the first flag comes out.
Unsportsmanlike conduct, 1 against each team. 65 on the defense and 31 on the offense. Those penalties will offset. The result of the play is a touchdown.
And it will, in fact, be a touchdown Lancers. So they got the numbers mixed up. It was 31 on the defense in Trusty and 65 on the offense, which ends up being Chris Cordova. But a 33-yard touchdown pass, another electric, big-time play from Wentz to Hartfield. And I'm going to change my star of the game for this one. It goes from Spence, who has had a sensational night. And now it goes to Hartfield, who now has 3 touchdowns and has just looked sensational.
And obviously what that does, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, is just not only does it scare the defensive backs from deepening in their coverage, but also it pulls linebackers away from the box and other players that might be in contention for stopping the run. So not only does a player like Hartfield open up your offense vertically, but it opens up running lanes too down the road. And team scouting this film, we're going to be like, wow, we're going to have to play further back so we can prepare for Hartfield's deep passes, but now that's going to open up running lanes in the future for these Lancer offense.
So they tried to go for the 2-point conversion, but it's going to stay at 51-24. That's where we are here in the 4th quarter of play between Pasadena City College and LAVC. You are watching Pasadena City College football here on Sportsnet USA.net. And again, we thank you for joining us here on Sportsnet USA.net. It has been a fun ride thus far. We've had point after blocks, we've had punt blocks, we've had kick returns for touchdowns, interceptions all around, fumbles recovered. It's been a wild one between both of these two sides as they have combined for 75 points in this one so far. And when you look at both of them, you're kind of seeing what each team has to go on in terms of style of play now. Because, I mean, you saw LA Valley last week. I got to watch Pasadena City College on tape last week as well. you're kind of seeing the similarities between games 1 and game 2.
Yeah, and I think for LA Valley, their goal should be going forward is to continue to work the dinking and dunking in their offense. Obviously we saw them have a big play to Deandre Smith for that touchdown, 33 yards. But for the most part, I feel like any 8-yard stop route or any dig routes over there in the middle, the 3 vertical routes they had run, most of those routes were open. They weren't huge gains, of course. They were constantly working the chains, though, and moving down the field. I feel like those were their 2 best drives. And going forward in the season, I'm sure their goal is to run more of those.
Picking it up and moving backwards is Jonathan Ramirez de la Cruz. He's got a little bit of room. That's Jordan Stevenson, and he will finally get taken down at the 35-yard line. And he ends up running probably 70 yards so that way he can pick up about 15. But the deal is he did pick up yards after he ends up moving forward. So he switches sides, but he does pick up yardage for LAVC. There is a penalty, and it is an illegal block in the back. And that will go against LA Valley, and specifically against Shane Bennett. So LA Valley trying to put some more points on the board with 9:20 left to go here in the 4th. They had brought it to a 3-score game, but now it gets lengthened once again by Pasadena City College. So the question is, what look is LAVC going to bring out here? And the answer is they are going to bring out a new look at quarterback. And it looks like we'll get that name in just a moment, as they are going to go to the pass to start off, and that goes incomplete to start. And coming into the game for the Monarchs is Wesley Shimonga. So Shimonga, the 5'11" freshman, one of those guys that you were talking about out of Canada, went to Canada Prep and now is back in there. He was 3 for 10 last week for a total of 2 yards and a long of 7.
Yeah, he was thrown into action last week after both Chevalier and Savage were knocked out of the game due to injury.
He goes back, tosses down the middle, and it's nearly intercepted. Goes in and out of the hands of Don Harrell. He's had a couple of targets in this one reception, and now he's got one that goes through his hands. So that is an incomplete pass. 3rd and 10 with 9:09 left to go in the 4th quarter.
Brings up a 3rd and 10 from the 17.
Now,
you see, with me, it's all about reading comprehension. So when you look at all the numbers on the right-hand side where the scoreboard is, it couldn't be any bigger. But yet I'm reading it and going, information not downloading. So Shimonga goes back into the gun. Off to his right, he's got a single back set. Martin way off to the right, and they are going to whistle this one down. We may have had some movement prior to the snap being brought back. It's actually a delay of game going against Shimonga and the entire LAVC offense.
I believe we've seen 6 of those from the Monarch side today.
Out wide to the right is Cameron Lewis. He's going to be joined in the slot by Dallas Martin. In the backfield is Quanta Pugh. Pugh goes off to his left. Shimonga gets some heavy pressure, has to get away, scoots away, does run around over to his left, shovel it forward over to Pugh. He gets past one and is able to get a big gain of about 7 yards, 7.5, getting all the way up to the 25-yard line, which was huge. Makes it a 4th down and 2 to go.
And that's one thing that I noticed from Shimonga's game last week against Mount Sac. His ability to improvise, he's a little bit more athletic than his counterparts in Chevalier and Savage. So he's able to extend the play like that, and he's obviously a freshman, so he's going to take more risk than those other quarterbacks, but you see there it paid off for the Monarchs.
Shimonga getting set to take the snap. It's high in the air, pops up. He's going to get away from pressure. Has to scramble once again, looking for the chance to get to the sticks. He points the football up in the air. Does he get the first down, though, is the question. He got popped up into the air, and he will be close to the line. They are going to say he got up to the 28-yard line, make it the 27, and just enough for a first down.
If I'm the referee, I see the score, I see that hustle, that effort, you just got to give them the first down.
So clock keeps on rolling here at exactly 8 minutes to go here in the fourth. 51-24 is our score. Live from Pasadena City College here on SportsNetUSA.net, and we've got some movement, and the flag goes flying.
Drive the snap. False start on the offense, number 16. 15-yard penalty. Still first down.
So another false start going against the offense of LA Valley, and the Monarchs will reset with a first down and 15 to go. They've got to get up to the 37-yard line. Seven and a half to play. Shimonga calling out everything offensively. Ball pops up into the air. It's going to go over to Cameron Lewis, in and out of his hands. And for Cameron Lewis, you saw his head take a look over to his right, and he said, ooh, look at that. I've got some daylight to work with. But in doing so, it ends up going through his hands because he lifts his head up upfield just a shade too early. And with the speed that Lewis has, if he brings that in, he's got at least 15 to 20 yards to work with. Lewis is an excellent kick returner for LA Valley. And a threat on the outside. Shimonga calling things out, looking at where the linebacking core is of Pasadena City College. Delayed blitz coming up. He's going to deliver towards the near sideline, going up into the air and past Del Villar. And Del Villar will watch that end up sailing out of bounds. New package coming in for LAVC on the near sideline. They're going to bring out Joseph Painter, joining Cameron Lewis. So Pugh, Painter out there as well with Lewis, and Shimonga is in the backfield. Single back set off to his left hip. Shimonga going to receive the snap. High floater looking over to his right. He's going to deliver that football into the awaiting arms of the streaking Jerry Mack, and Mack is able to haul that one in for a reception. Brings it forward for a gain of 7. That's going to be a punt situation coming up from LAVC. Now, we saw this earlier, Noah. It's later in this game with 6:45 on the clock, but we saw LAVC go with a fake punt earlier. They went for it, and they were able to not only convert but gain 21 yards on the play. Don't think this is going to happen here with how late it is in this ball game, but nonetheless, special teams for LAVC has had a chance. This is going to go in and out of the hands of Kalanji. Kalanji decides to throw. He's got a receiver there who ends up getting trucked right at the 37-yard line. He ends up 1 yard short of the first down. It all depends on where they spot it. They may have the first down, but a flag comes flying in well after the play.
I don't think it was meant to be a fake, but it kind of worked out like a fake, didn't it?
It did. And Kalanji, great job by him. Once he picked up that football to move up the field, a lot of times you'll see punters in that situation just say, I got to get that kick away. And then it goes spiraling out of bounds for like a total punt of 5 yards. But instead, in this situation, he picks it up and looks downfield. But here's the problem with that. There's an ineligible receiver downfield. So in that type of scramble where you're just trying to get it to a guy, you end up having an ineligible receiver downfield, and it's a overall negative of 5, and they will push themselves back. So Kalanji with another chance to kick it away.
Wasn't a bad throw from Kalanji, though. They might want to incorporate some sort of fake punt throw for him in the future.
Kalanji gets it this time. Gets it away just in front of Spence. Lots of backspin on that one, and it will take a Pasadena hop and stop right at the 47-yard line. So, Pasadena City College with another possession here in the fourth quarter of play. 51-24, they lead it here in the fourth quarter. You are watching Pasadena City College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. We are happy to join you from Pasadena City College and Robinson Stadium live here on SportsNetUSA.net, and we thank you for joining us. So we have been able to take in quite the ball game between both of these two sides, each of them combining for 75 points. Edward Norton is going to recheck in at quarterback. They're going to run it right up the middle, and it will go into the arms of Miles Anderson for an overall gain of 4 to start the drive off.
Miles Anderson on the carry. Tackles by number 52, Scott Clark, and number 57, David Francis.
So Edward Norton joined by Anderson over to his right on the near side. Daniel Phillips is out wide to the left. Norton runs into a blocker. He's still got one more to go. He gets right up to the edge of the first down marker at the 39-yard line, and that will end up being a third down and very short, maybe 6 inches at max. For Pasadena City College, after this ball game, they will be on the road next Saturday at Santa Monica at 1 p.m. And then back here on SportsNetUSA.net on Saturday the 25th against Citrus. 51-24 is our score. Norton through one, gets past the initial point of contact, and he ends up getting taken down by Jacoby Harvey.
After that first down, Ryan, I'd like to make a comparison. If you remember, in 2019, Fullerton College used 3 different quarterbacks throughout that season, and I think all of us here at SportsNetUSA.net had a favorite quarterback. I think for the Monarchs going forward this year, we saw a lot of Zachary Chevalier, and we saw a little bit of Wesley Shimonga. And then last week I was able to see a little bit of Ezekiel Savage. I think all 3 quarterbacks, they're not too far separated. I think going forward, all 3 of them probably can earn some playing time on the field, and all 3 bring different things to the table, very similarly to the trio that led the Fullerton Hornets in 2019.
And on the other side for Pasadena City College, Edward Norton, in addition to Cade Wentz, provide a very efficient duo when moving the ball up the field, especially here with Norton and the different style of offense that he presents. Left-handed, tosses it downfield. He's got a receiver open, touchdown, Lancers. That is going to go to Daniel Phillips. We just mentioned it on the last offensive possession. He got his first opportunity to hop into a game or into this ball game on the last offensive drive, and this time with an excellent touchdown pass there from Norton. He is able to catch that in the end zone. An additional 6 for Pasadena City College, and for Daniel Phillips, the 5'9" sophomore out of Franklin, he is able to get them back on the board. 57-24, the opportunity for the extra point here is up, away, and good. But we've got a flag.
Offside on the defense. Penalties decline. PAT is good.
So an offsides on LAVC doesn't matter, as it will be declined, and that is additional points on the board for Coach Tucker's team. And that will bring it to a 58-24 score.
You mentioned it earlier, too. The sideline's reaction to a field goal kicker getting some points up on the board. That was also really cool to see the sideline reaction to Phillips getting that touchdown score. You saw the sideline cheering him on. And you mentioned a sophomore, probably put in some work with this program and stuck through it throughout the pandemic, which really kind of wiped away the 2020 season for both these teams. So nice to see the sideline get excited for a player like him.
58-24 is our score, as it's going to be Zamarone to kick it away. 3:21 left here in this one. So presumably if the score remains the same, Pasadena City College is going to go and get their first win under Coach Robert Tucker as the Pasadena City College Lancers with a 58-24 win. And if you're LAVC on the other side too, you have really had the opportunity to put points on the board. You've had some trick plays that have worked out as well. Both of these teams with a lot of positives that they can look at this one. This is going to go out of bounds, and it goes off of LA Valley. So no flag on the play, but it will go out at the 30-yard line. And that is where LAVC will start off their offensive drive.
First touching by the receiving team. First down.
Going to get a chance to look at the California scoreboard coming up in just a couple of moments. Again, as we continue to march our way towards the middle half of this season, already week number 2, you're looking at 1/5 of the season being done. That's how quickly this college football season ends up getting through. But you look at it and you say, you know what? Pasadena City College, with the opportunity to go to 1-1 this season, if they are able to hang on here in the last 3:21. They march themselves closer to conference play with some momentum, especially going into that matchup against Citrus and Santa Monica as well. This is going to be a pitch to the outside to Pugh. Pugh gets past 1, gets past 2, gets a block, but it looks like it might be a hold on the far side as the flag comes flying in. Scores around Southern California. LA Harbor 47-0 over LA Pierce. They end up blanking LA Pierce as a hold will end up bringing it back to a 1st and 20. West LA and Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara gets their first win of the year, 23-21. West LA made it interesting in the final frame as they scored 2 touchdowns to bring it to within 2. But that was all she wrote on that one. Staying around here in Southern California, San Diego Mesa and Ventura. Ventura goes to 2-0 as they beat a big-time quality opponent in San Diego Mesa, 49-21. 28-point win there. So this will be Pugh. Pugh goes into 4 different Lancers, and he gets taken down. He ends up getting tackled by Edward Vargas on the final person who gets there. And he will end up gaining about 5 back. 31-3. Golden West here on SportsNetUSA.net ends up getting the win over top of Palomar down in Escondido. So a big-time win for Golden West. They are now 2-0 after a win over Orange Coast. And Shimonga takes the snap, looks over to his left, and it's going to go into the hands of Pugh. Pugh gets wrapped up, and he will gain 1 yard in total. El Camino and Bakersfield. Bakersfield 17-10 with the lead. Under 9 minutes to go in that one. Riverside City beats Long Beach 24-6, and they go up to 2-0. College of the Canyons, who is going to be on SportsNetUSA.net coming up next week against Fullerton, 38-10 over Southwestern. They get a win there, and we continue to march our way towards the end of this one. Here's a chance for Shimonga. Shimonga trying to find a teammate. He ends up getting bopped right at the 33-yard line and gains a total of 6. The clock will continue to run to under 1.5 minutes to play in this one.
Keeper by Shimonga. Tackled again by number 47, Brandon Lopez.
Finishing out Southern California, East LA here on SportsNetUSA.net, 42-7 with the final there. They were able to get a win over top of Chaffey. Chaffey goes down to 0-2, East LA to 2-0. And then you look at Fullerton, 27-14. They are finishing up their game with under 2 minutes to play in that one. Also, here on SportsNetUSA.net, here's Pugh on 4th down. He's able to get into first down territory all the way up to the 45, still going, still on his feet, and finally taken down in Pasadena City College territory with under a minute to play. We are at 50 seconds left in this one. 58-24 is our score as Pasadena City College is finishing up this one. And again, they have an opportunity to go to 2-0 this season as LA Valley will take a timeout. They want a chance to talk this one over. You're on SportsNetUSA.net. We bring you a lot of community college football. And coming up this next weekend, we've got a lot of community college football coming up on your computer screens and whatever you end up tuning in on, whether it's your phone, your computer, or whatever device you are able to watch, we'll have community college football. As again, Fullerton College will end up taking on Canyons. That will be live here on SportsNetUSA.net. Just continue to check the schedule as we will have a lot of games coming up next week, the week after, every week until the season ends. If you're thinking, you know what, Ryan, I'm tired of you talking about just other teams around Southern California. When's Pasadena going to be back here on SportsNetUSA.net? Well, I have the answer for you. Coming up in 2 weeks on Saturday the 25th, when they host Citrus, they will be right back here on SportsNetUSA.net. That will be, if I remember correctly, a 6 p.m. game. And I am correct on that one. Saturday the 25th at 6 p.m. That will be right back here on SportsNetUSA.net. Snap goes back to Shimonga. He's looking for the wheel route, and he does end up finding it in Pugh. Pugh gets up to the 10-yard marker and finds it.
Shimonga's pass completed to Pugh. Tackle by number 48, Anthony Garibay. It's good for an LA Valley first down.
58-24. Shimonga goes back. 30 seconds left on the clock. This time he's going to go near side of the field with Gary Mack. So the clock is going to continue to spin its way down. 24 seconds left in this one.
Tackles on the play.
Personal foul, roughing the passer on the defense, number 35. Half the distance, automatic first down.
Prior to the penalty, tackles by number 11, Darnell McGee.
So with 24 seconds left on the clock, Pasadena City is going to go to 1-1 this season. They get their first win under Coach Tucker. He comes to Pasadena City College after spending a few years over at UC Davis. LA Valley prior to that with the championship as well, and he brings that pedigree right here to Lancer territory. And immediately gets a win in his home opener. 58-24 showing on the game clock. Or the scoreboard as Shimonga goes into the corner. He's got a guy. Touchdown LAVC. That's going to be a touchdown reception for Quentin Herring. 5'10" freshman out of North Hollywood. And LA Valley is able to get points on the board with 4 seconds left. And it will bring us to a 58-30 score.
Pass by number 18, Wesley Shimonga, to number 19, Quentin Herring.
So they're going to line up for the extra point coming up here in just a moment. And you credit LAVC towards the end of the game, time winding down. They are able to get themselves on the board with a successful touchdown drive. Shimonga gets his first LAVC touchdown pass, as this will be a snap that goes back and gets past all of the Monarchs and will be recovered by Pasadena City College, but a flag goes flying on the opposite side of the field.
I think the long snapper saw.
And it sounds like it's going to be offsides on the defense.
Offsides. Defense. Half the distance. Replay the try.
The long snapper looked up and saw the play clock going down. It was under 5 seconds. And despite the holder and the kicker not being ready, he decided to snap it anyway.
4 seconds left in this one. LAVC lining up for the point after. Getting a good chance here with Colin going back to attempt it. This is one of those opportunities for LA Valley, and they're going to take a timeout and get everything all straightened out. This is what you were talking about earlier, where they have the special teams kind of mishaps where they have one PAT that gets blocked, one that goes wide to the left. Well, you use this as a teaching opportunity. With 4 seconds left on the clock, you have a chance to talk it out, make sure everybody's on the same page. You have that recent mishap just a few moments ago, but it doesn't end up counting. So you bring everyone over to the sideline. You say, hey, take a deep breath. It's okay. We're going to set this down, get the kick away, and get an extra point here. And it really helps these guys, especially if they're young on the roster. You got a couple freshmen who are in on the special teams attempts. It helps them to settle down and say, hey, later on in the season, in their next game, we're going into conference. You know what? I have the confidence to go out and do this because I've had the opportunity to do so earlier. Instead, LAVC is going to trot out a 2-point conversion attempt here as Wesley Shimonga comes back out there after tossing a touchdown pass, and the snap goes in to the floor. It will be recovered, but it looks like Pasadena. The try will end up being no good. And with 4 seconds left on the clock, 58-30 is our score.
The Lancers 58, LA Valley 30.
You credit LAVC as well here, Noah, as even though on the scoreboard they're down by 28 points, they didn't end up saying, you know what, we're done. We're just going to run out the clock, and yeah, well, we'll take it. Instead, they say, Ryan, Noah, we're taking it downfield. We're going to try and get our offense going and see what we've got here in Shimonga the rest of the way.
Yeah, this team has a lot of fight. Even down 72-0 against Mount Sac last weekend, they had that same kind of fight in them. And I think that's one thing, too, that stands out from this level of play, Ryan, is that Shimonga didn't get to play much of the first half at all. So it's his kind of time to shine. All three quarterbacks are freshmen, so if he's going to earn any playing time and he feels like he deserves some more playing time, he's going to come out and show it in the game. And the same thing with Quonset Pugh. It's the same thing with all these second stringers on the offense for the Monarchs. Hey, it's our time to shine. Can we do something to impress these coaches to where, like, hey, maybe we can play these guys a little bit more in a close game and we can rely on them come conference time.
Everyone on the recovery side for Pasadena City College ends up kind of switching sides on the field as they want to get their hands unit all up in front of the 45-yard line. Here's a chance for the onside kick. It is contacted and recovered by none other than Edward Norton. So your backup quarterback says, you know what, guys, I'm going to take it myself. I got this, don't worry. And the clock will end up running out on this one. So a final here from Pasadena City College and Robinson Stadium. It is the first win under Coach Tucker. 58-30, Pasadena City College, a Lancers victory, as LAVC ends up being the first loss, or excuse me, the first win for Pasadena City College. And as you can hear in the background, a congratulations goes up to Coach Tucker as he gets that first win here at Pasadena City College. When you look at how this game played out, it started out with Pasadena City College scoring 3 times in the first, we'll say 15 minutes of play. No, we'll extend that, 17 minutes of play. And they really didn't end up giving up the reins after.
No, and I think it was an overall complete performance. You mentioned special teams was able to get a punt block, a PAT block. They were able to do things defensively, bring extra pressure, force Chevalier to get rid of the ball early. He also took some big hits, really made the Monarchs get away from their running game because then all of a sudden they were chasing. And not only did they run the ball, I think, with some success with Edward Norton and company in the backfield, but they're also able to extend the defense, blow the coverage off the Monarch secondary, which I thought was really just a well-rounded overall game from Pasadena City College.
On the other side for LAVC, they dropped to 0-2 this season. You're going to see them a lot more here on SportsNetUSA.net. Noah Alvarez over to my left, the voice of LA Valley College football, coming up here on SportsNetUSA.net. But a final here at Pasadena City College as the Lancers get a big-time victory, finishing with well over 280 yards of offense. They scored multiple ways. They get interceptions, not recover a fumble, but force 2 fumbles, in addition to those punt blocks, in addition to those special teams plays. Pasadena City College, you mentioned it, well-rounded in this victory, and that's something that Coach Tucker is really going to be able to hang his hat on and remember as that first Pasadena City College victory under his belt. So that's going to do it for us from Robinson Stadium. A final of 58-30. Pasadena City College gets their first win of the season. They move up to 1-1. Don't forget that the next time that Pasadena City College will be on the air here on SportsNetUSA.net live from Robinson Stadium is in 2 weeks, September 25th at 6 p.m. as they will host Citrus. For Noah Alvarez, actually, before I sign off, I once again want to thank everyone here at Pasadena City College for all the help that they have been. From the moment we stepped in to this stadium, they said, do you want water? You've got it. You want a table? You know what? Take this one. Anything that we've needed, they have made sure that they have delivered to us, including stats as well at halftime. They have been extremely nice and kind, making sure we get on the air. So a big thank you to everyone and the entire staff here at Pasadena City College. But until the 25th for Pasadena City from Robinson Stadium, for Noah Alvarez, I'm Ryan Osborn, thanking you for joining us. A final of 58-30, Pasadena City College with the win over LA Valley. You are watching and have been watching Pasadena City College football here on SportsNetUSA.net.